This is the start of a series that I've been thinking about for a while because it's something that a concept that I have had for years now, and it's something that I realize I haven't really discussed in detail the way I'm going to discuss it right now. And this concept is a little bit big, so it'll be helpful to have it broken up into several episodes. And so this is sort of like, think of this as the prologue to this little series. This little series is about capital. Most people, when they think about capital, they think about, das Kapital, they think about money, as if money is the only kind of capital around. And in point of fact, there are 4 different kinds of capital, or at least I think that there are 4. I don't know where I came up with the concept that I'm going to discuss right now. I might have read it from someplace, or it might be something that I just developed on my own. I really don't know. And if I inadvertently stole it from somebody, please accept my apologies. But this concept has really helped me, and I think it's going to help you. And so let me get into it. Now, you see, there are 4 types of capital. There's personal capital, there's emotional capital, there's social capital, and then there's financial capital. Now, we all know what financial capital is. Financial capital is the accumulation of money and or other convertible assets that can be used to invest in other businesses, or perhaps used in order to purchase a larger asset. It's just basically a pile of money. That's what financial assets are, right? But the personal, emotional, and social capital that you build is equally important. And I would venture to argue that if you only have one, if you only have, like, say, financial capital, but the other 3 are at 0, you're going to have a miserable life. It's been my experience that when I've had capital accumulated in all 4 categories, my life has been happy, has been fulfilled. And let me get into each of them. Now, I'm going to go into individual episodes about each of these capitals in future posts. But for now, I just want to give an overview, okay? And I'm very mindful of the fact that some of these categories bleed into the other, but these 4 categories are personal capital. Now, personal capital, what does that mean? It means what you invest in yourself, in your mind and your body, see? Now, see, think of it as this. Think of all the books that you've read. Think of all the times that you've gone to the gym or exercised or whatever, okay? You are making deposits in yourself. You are growing your personal capital. You read a book, a profound book, say The Brothers Karamazov, and that will increase the capital of your mind, of your personal capital, right? You, say go for a jog every day to the point where you can comfortably run 10 miles just like that. No problem. I mean, well, not instantly, of course, but the thing is, see, you can run 10 miles. Not many people can do that nowadays. Very few people, as a matter of fact, can run 10 miles without a break. But you invested that in yourself. That's your personal capital, okay? Now, emotional capital, what is that? Emotional capital is the feeling of support that you have that can do 2 things. It can withstand an emotional blow, say the failure of a big project, or perhaps the death of a loved one. That is one use of emotional capital. And the other use of emotional capital is to give you the enthusiasm, the emotional energy to go out and pursue something. Say you want to start a new business, right? You want to start a new business. And sure, you need money and time and effort, but more than anything else, you need that emotional capital, that belief in yourself, that strength of character that pushes you forward, even as adversities mount. Because whenever you try something big, something worthwhile, there are always going to be times when you think you're going to fail. There are always going to be times where you are crossing an enormous abyss on a tightrope as thin as the hair on a baby's head. That's inevitable. And you're going to need the emotional capital to be able to give you the energy to continue on your path. See? That's something that people don't talk about enough. That emotional reservoir that you need to draw on to achieve a great thing. You need that. Okay? Now, what is social capital? Social capital are the people around you in your environment, in your milieu, whatsoever that milieu may be. Okay, it could be your neighborhood, it could be your line of work, your business, it can be online, it can be whatever, it doesn't matter. It's how many people you know, how many people you interact with, how far is your social reach in your milieu. Okay, that's social capital. And financial capital, as you know, the easiest one, it's how much money you've got. Now, the fact of the matter is, a lot of times, you can improve one or the other by drawing on one or the other. For example, say for the sake of argument that you have $100,000. That's your financial capital, right? Now, you have the $100,000 and you withdraw $20,000 of those $100,000, and two possibilities. On the one hand, you blow it on a Ducati motorcycle. You know, you blow it on a Ducati, okay? That's one hypothetical. So you took a financial asset and you bought a toy. Do you need it? Is it really necessary? Yes, no? So you blew it on a toy. So in a sense, you sort of like splurged it. You sort of like blew the 20 grand on nothing much, right? But say you'd taken that 20 grand, instead of blowing it on a Ducati, you'd gone and invested it in your friend's flower shop. You know, your friend is setting up a business, a flower shop business, and he needs startup capital. And so you say, hey, we'll go 50-50 and I'll finance your operation. Here's 20 grand, go and open your flower shop. And lo and behold, 6 months, a year later, that flower shop is doing great business and you've got a steady income stream, right? And lo and behold, in 2-3 years, that income stream from the flower shop replenished the 20 grand that you spent on it and gives you more. And hey, it was a wise investment, right? Sure it was. You withdrew the financial capital and invested in a business that gave you a return. So that was a good withdrawal of your financial capital, right? Say, however, that you take the 20 grand and you spend it on the Ducati, and we said that the Ducati was just a waste of money, right? But say that you use that Ducati to join this motorcycle club of rich fucks who are involved in your town in all kinds of businesses, and you bring that late model Ducati and ooh, it's the cool motorcycle, and gives you an entree to that social circle. And your social capital grows. You have a wider entree because you join this motorcycle club with all these rich guys who are involved in all kinds of businesses in your town. I'm not talking shade, I'm talking just legitimate businesses, right? You know, whatever that may be, you get to know these guys, your social capital goes up. Yeah, sure, your financial capital went down by 20 grand by buying this Ducati, but your social capital goes up. And because of the social connections, the social network, the social capital that you grew by joining this motorcycle club, these guys give you access, the heads up to different businesses. And this improves your financial capital. So all of a sudden, you see, blowing the 20 grand on the Ducati wasn't such a lousy investment. In point of fact, it was a very shrewd investment. Because yeah, sure, you bought yourself a toy, but you used it to gain entree and access to a group of men, a group of business people that you wouldn't have had access to before. And all of a sudden, your financial position grows. You see? So you see how they interact? And that's just one example. The permutations between the four. Well, there are 6 possible permutations, and that's just 1-to-1. You add on, you know, withdrawals from 2 to add to a third, and hey, you know, and for instance, you spend money, your capital, on buying a yearly membership to some fancy gym, and you go there every day, and you improve your personal capital. Your body gets stronger, you get fitter, you get in shape, you get more attractive, right? And all of a sudden you have greater social access, you have emotional capital that you build up. Because now that you're not the fat fuck that you used to be, now that you're trim and in shape and can run 10 miles without, you know, wheezing and dying of a heart attack, right? All of a sudden, you know, your social capital rises, your emotional capital rises because you feel healthier, happier with your body, happier with yourself. So you see how they work, see? Personal capital, emotional capital, social capital, financial capital. Now, a lot of people inherit one or the other. A lot of people are lucky enough to have been born in the right womb. Some of us grew up with nothing. We started with zero. Nothing on our personal capital, nothing in our emotional capital, nothing in our social capital, nothing in our financial capital, and we grew it from zero. We grew it. Okay? Some of us were born, with a silver spoon in our mouth. It doesn't really matter. The point is what you do with your position, how you grow each of these four categories. See? Let me give you an example of somebody who inherited different capital. Like, for instance, personal capital. I once saw a picture of Cindy Crawford's daughter. And now, when I was growing up, Cindy Crawford was the be-all, end-all. She was just so smoking hot. And her daughter now, I think she's 18 or 17, some little kid, right? I mean, easily young enough to be my daughter, if not my granddaughter. And I see her now. She's gorgeous, just like her mother. Where did she get those looks? Her mother. She inherited them, right? What about the Rockefellers? The Rockefellers, some great-great-grandson of John D. He still has got tons of money, right? He inherited his financial capital, right? Look at the Bush family. Now there's an interesting case. See, Prescott Bush, who was George Herbert Walker Bush's father. He was a senator back in the day from Connecticut, I believe. Prescott Bush was a big wheel in Connecticut. He had a lot of social connections, and he passed them on to his son, George Herbert Walker, right? And George Herbert Walker grew that social capital. When with his wife, they were famous for it. One of the tiny little tricks that George Herbert Walker did, which grew his social capital enormously over the years, and which actually led to his presidency, was that he, every morning he would write thank you notes to all the people who had done little things for him or anything for him the day before. Every morning he'd sit down in a typewriter and type out these little thank you notes, like 5, 10, sometimes 20 little thank you notes, and sign them and send them off. It took him half an hour, if that. I mean, he typed them out himself and signed them himself, but it was, sort of like a standard kind of thank you thing, right? He typed out these little notes, and what do you think would happen when people got these little notes in the mail? These little thank you notes that cost, whatever a stamp was, costs, I actually don't know, 50 cents, whatever. And the cost of the nice stationery, and they get this little letter, this little note from George Herbert Walker back when he was nobody, right? Back when he was growing, he was becoming somebody. They appreciated it and built his social capital. And social capital that he passed on to his kid, both Jeb Bush and George W. Bush. George W. Bush, we all know famously, is a fairly limited individual, let's be honest. But he took this social capital that he had inherited and he grew it a bit. And he used it very shrewdly to become president. A man of limited intellect, limited abilities, limited talents. The guy couldn't even speak properly, for crying out loud. And he became president of the United States. He took that social capital that he had inherited and used it, applied it. Okay? Now, think of emotional capital that can be inherited. I've read about the family of Mitt Romney. Remarkable people. All right. I mean, whatever you think of Mitt Romney's politics, you have to admire the way that he has handled his family, he and his wife, because they have a bunch of children, right? And they get together 2, 3, 4 times a year for different reasons, Thanksgiving, Christmas, what have you. But they get together and they support one another, and they go out of their way to talk about their different problems. They even have like a session where all the Romney men gather around and talk about their businesses and have the others give them critiques of what they're doing. Think of the emotional capital they are building. Okay? Because each of them knows that their brothers and their old man are paying attention to their business and are going to be there a phone call away in case of anything going down. They have that emotional capital, that emotional reservoir. And so if they decide to go after some big goal, whatever it may be, presidency in the case of Romney, or whatever his kids are doing, right? Each of them is going to know that they have enormous reserves of emotional support to pursue that goal. And if some tragedy befalls them, some loss, some failure befalls them, they will have the emotional support to buoy them up during that dark stretch. You see? So that's how you pass on the different forms of capital, you know. The personal capital, you know, brains and body, well, that's you know, a trick of the genes. But the other stuff, you can do it. You can pass it on. You can pass it on to your children. And I think that that's a smart thing to do. And in point of fact, that's what certainly I am trying to do, of passing on the accumulations of capital in different areas that I've accumulated in my life to my kids, so that they will have a leg up, because this life is hard. Okay? Now, this system that I'm discussing with you, like I said, I'm going to expand on it in future posts. But I want you, with this prologue, with this introduction, to get a sense of what I'm trying to describe to you. Okay? Now, you might think it's a bit vague here or there, and admittedly it is. Okay? But my point is not to be like precise like a scientist. It's to give you a rule of thumb, a guiding vision of how to accumulate the capital that you will need to have a successful life. Okay? Because you see, you can't make it just on one thing. You know, one kind of capital is simply not enough for a complete life or a full life or a happy life. And in point of fact, a single kind of capital that you accumulate, that you excel at, will give you an unbalanced life. And we have seen so many people who have such unbalanced lives. You know, famous people who are very rich, lottery winners, for instance, they have all the money in the world, but they don't have the other capitals necessary to have a balanced life. And so much money and their life just tips over like a ship, you know? And that's something that you don't want. On the contrary, you want to have a balanced life, a life that is buoyed and moves forward confidently, happily, you know, in balance. So anyway, I'm going to be talking more about this stuff in future posts, and I hope that this has sort of like given you a sense of where I'm going over the next 2-3 weeks. Hi, I hope you enjoyed this post, and if you did, please subscribe to my channel. If you're already subscribed, I'd very much appreciate it if you would give this video a thumbs up, because it helps with the Google algorithm. So I'm going to be continuing with the series, and I think that you're really going to enjoy the post that I'm going to do on Thursday. So until then, so long.